battery is dying.
Victor's typing something.
Yeah, good morning everyone. Now I think it's good. So welcome to the last lecture on the requirements part of this course. So today we will talk about a tool, and we will talk less and work more. So I hope everybody got his laptop with them so that they can follow the lecture and do some task with me. I also received some questions regarding the assignment. So before beginning the lecture, I will discuss a little bit about the assignment and the expectations. So, but before the assignment, I would like to get you this tool, the STL tool, so Socio-Technical Systems Requirements Modeling Tool. So if you follow this link, STS-tool.eu. Okay, I think now you can see the screen. So if you follow this link, STS-tool.eu/downloads, you will see that there is a bunch of platform-specific tools. So you can choose whatever machine you have. Let's say Windows 64, and then using your name and email, you can download the tool, and we will use this tool throughout the course and as well as for the assignment. So I highly recommend, if you have the laptop, get the tool now so that you can download at some point during the lecture, and then we can follow the hands-on session. So I close this window now. So for this tool you need Java, so in particular JDK, at least 7 version, and you can have also the latest version, that is 11. And there is some manuals on the website that you can follow also if you want to learn more about this tool. But for this course you just need the basic stuff on how to learn modeling. So regarding the assignment, so the assignment will have 2 parts. In the first part, you will apply whatever we have learned in the lecture 1st and lecture 1 and 2. So it's about requirements elicitation, analysis, validation, and modeling. And in the second part, we will focus mostly on today's lecture, but I will come to this later. So in the first part of the assignment, that is RE 1.1. So I will give you a list of context or problems, or maybe design problems, where you will identify. So you will choose one design problem or one problem context, and you will identify the stakeholders for that context or for that problem. Then you will elicit and label the functional and non-functional requirements, so at least 5 for each. Then after you have the requirements, you will perform a systematic checklist based analysis. So in the lectures we discussed that checklist, so you will apply that checklist also to perform the analysis of your requirements that you elicited or gathered. Then you also classify the requirements that you identified using a faceted approach or any other approach that you prefer, and systematically assess their risk. So there is also a checklist or framework for a risk assessment for requirements. Then you also need to perform a systematic validation of the requirements. So requirements analysis and requirements validation are not the same thing. So there is two different systematic approach that I also discussed during the lecture. And there is also a traceability analysis that we discussed. So you can we can identify, or we can find dependencies between requirements in many ways. So you can choose one of them and perform the analysis of this traceability. Then out of those 5 requirements that you identified in step 2, you will choose one requirement, and for each of those 5 requirements you will choose one test case, or you will define at least one test case for each of the 5. So you will have basically 10 test cases for 10 requirements. Then you will pick one requirements, and that for that one you will perform the modeling. So let's say the UML modeling, and you can choose any tool, but I would recommend also Papyrus tool that we discussed in the last lecture. And for that modeling, you will identify classes, attributes, operations, and relationships between classes. And you will use this UML model at the end to define some constraint, like at least 3 I mentioned here, but you can define more if you want. And of course, those constraint, those OCL constraint, for those constraint, you will have a specification guideline that also I had linked in our previous lecture in the slides. So you can look at those specification, OMG specification of OCL to define simple constraint on a UML model or the UML diagram that you developed in the previous step. And the goal of this first assignment will be to have a final requirements document that will include everything above, from stakeholders until the OCL constraint. And it doesn't have any page limit. So for the second assignment, that is RE 1.2, I will come to this after this lecture to give you some more details. But for the assignment on writing and evaluation, for the tools, I would recommend, again, as I mentioned, Eclipse Papyrus for OCL and UML. And for the assignment 2, part 2, that is this today's lecture, you will use this tool, STS tool. The font should be Times New Roman always. So it's easy to read and follow. And the size, of course, should be 12, not too small, not too big. And as a formal color, it should be always the black. So the font, don't use other colors font. And the line spacing should be at least 1.5 so that it's easy to read. As I mentioned, there is no page limit. The page size should be letter or A4, not small pages or not large pages. And you have to submit your assignments in PDF, but you can do it in Word file or LaTeX. Even Papyrus and STS tools, they allow exporting reports and diagrams in PDF. So if you want to export your images, and later if you want to incorporate those images in your doc file or LaTeX file, you can generate PDF using those images. And for the evaluation, there will be 2 parts of the evaluation. So 90% of your grade will go to content quality, so how much effort you give to your report, and also there will be a 10% presentation quality, so how clean and neat and readable and presentable your report is. So this 10% is basically the bonus. So if you write your report well and readable and clear, you will get this 10%. So I will come to the second part of the assignment later after this lecture. So today's lecture will be about a tool, and this tool basically model the requirements, and those requirements are all about security requirements. So what is security requirements? We will look in this lecture, and what is socio-technical system or socio-technical systems. So these days, socio-technical systems are basically all around us. Whatever we are purchasing online, whatever doing in the internet, whatever smart applications we are using at home. So everything are example of socio-technical system, because there is two parts. So one is the social part of the system, so the human or the agent who is interacting with the system, and then there is technical part, so is the application itself. So it can be a website, it can be a device, or any other smart thing that we are using on those cases, let's say the smart homes or e-commerce sites. So socio-technical systems are basically a network of social relationships. So social relationships are basically the interaction between those socio and technical subsystems. So we as a human may interact with a website, for example, for purchasing a ticket or booking a hotel. So this will be an interaction between between the human or the social object and the technical or the web application. So this is the example of a simple STS system. As you can see, there is a visiting researcher and or a teacher who works or who wants to give a lecture in LNU, and he wants to travel from somewhere else. So what he did, he talked to a travel agent called Cheap Travel, and this example is also from the documentation of the website that I mentioned. So he wants to travel to LNU, and he talked to a travel agency, Cheap Travel INC, that will help him to find a flight or make a reservation of the hotel. And if this company or agency want to make a flight booking, he talks to a website, let's say Amadeus.net or any other website to find, or let's say booking.com to find flights. And at the same time, he wants to find hotel even from booking.com or Expedia. And while he's booking the hotel itself, the city hotel, has other dependencies. So it has logistic dependencies, it has security, it has supplies and materialistic dependencies on other agencies or other companies. So usually the social network or social interaction in this kind of scenarios are very complex and large, and they have a very high number of risk issues and security issues that they need to consider in every interaction. So in plain terms, socio-technical security modeling language, STL-ml in short, are actor and goal-oriented requirements. So in the previous figure, all of these individual parts are actors. So a visiting researcher is an actor, a travel agency is an actor, a city hotel is an actor, as well as the website that is providing the flight booking is also actor. And also a goal-oriented requirements modeling language. So every actor has his goal that he wants to achieve through the interaction. And the socio-technical security modeling language, or STS-ml, focus on these two very importantly. So the actor and the goal. And each actor basically are autonomous, so they rely on each other on achieving their goals or objectives, but they can do by themselves also something. And when they rely on each other, we call this interactions. So models can be built using graphical concepts. So it's you can build using diagrams. So basically, you can express your security requirements using diagrams. That's why it's easy to use this tool to express or to gather your security requirements, and it's also easy for people from all different backgrounds. So you don't need to be expert in order to understand the security requirements or express the security requirements. and it has multiple views. I will show some example of those views, or at least I will discuss. So each view gives some specific perspective. So one view can be an interaction view, so how people are interacting, how actors are interacting. Another view can be a how people or what people are exchanging as information between each other. And another view can be, for example, who is authorized to do what, and if you are doing something that you are not authorized to do. So there can be multiple views or perspective in this model, in this graphic modeling language. And one of the most important concepts of this tool or STS-ml is security needs. So you express your security needs or constraint over interactions. So each interaction should or must have some security needs that you need to fulfill, and that will be your security requirements at the end. So in STS systems, even for the previous example, as I mentioned, that for each interaction, or maybe for as a whole of the organization or the process, there will be many security issues, and we should be aware of these security issues, and we should express them as security needs. And at the end, as a developer, or as a tester, we should consider those security issues and test those security issues in the later development phases. So as I mentioned, there is multiple perspective, or they call it views in STS, and those perspective can be social perspective or social view, to show how actors are interacting and what are their goals. So they are basically talking each other to fulfill their goals. There can be also an information view, also like information perspective. So what information or document actors or participants are exchanging between them. And also there will be authorization view. So if one actor or one participant is dependent on another actor, and he wants his help, so is he authorized to get his help? Or if the person he is looking for the help, is that guy is authorized to help him? So there is kind of authorization view. I will show also an example of this during the lectures in this lecture. For the social view, there can be two main kind of dependencies. So one is the goal delegation, and another is the document transmission. So for the goal delegation, people usually delegate something or some actions they cannot do by themselves. Even they can do by themselves, they want help of other people. So for example, my boss can always delegate me some work or some actions, and I'm bound to do that, because in the organization or in the department, I only know how to do that. And another example for the goal delegation from our previous example, that the visitor researchers depend on this travel agency to book the hotel and flight tickets. So the visiting researcher could do it himself, but he wants a cheaper price and a good price, and he doesn't want to be busy with this kind of stuff like hotel booking and flight booking, and he wants this agency to do that for him. And then there can be also document transmission. So while we are interacting each other, we might transmit documents or information among the actors or agents. And for the example for this case can be a visitor researcher is giving his information, private information or personal information, to that cheap travel agency to book the flights, and he wants this data strictly to be used only for this purpose. So there should be some security and authorization issues with this, or related to this information and document. A key concept in the social view is the security need. So we will express security needs for every interaction that I will also show in the example. And security needs are nothing but exception concerning the security. So what can happen bad, or what should happen to make it more reliable, this interaction. So this is all about security need. So for the social view meta model, so we all know what is meta model. So meta model shows all kinds of possible relationships and composition between classes or elements within a model that can be done when it's instantiated. For example, this is a meta model of social view. So as you can see, the central point of the social view is the actor. So this is the social view is based on the actor. So each actor might play multiple role of agents. So this is basically the participant. So participant can be either an agent, and there can be multiple agents, and it can also this participant can be also a role. So head of the department is a role. So any person can be head of the role, head of the department. So this is a role, but the person who is head of the department now, he is the agent. So there is this difference between agent and role. Then each actor might have multiple goals. These goals are basically objectives or actions, and for each goal it might have multiple document or information that are accessed, produced, revised, deleted, or modified. Then actors also transmit information or data. Actors delegate duties or goals, and there might be also multiple events that are related to actors and to goals. So these events are basically threats or risk to the in the scenario. And from this meta model, basically it can generate, so all the model of the social view, or all the diagram of the social view, it will be the instance of this meta model. So security needs. So as I mentioned, there are so these security needs are the primary factors in STS-ml model. So socio-technical systems. So there are basically two levels of security. So one is about the goal, and one is about the information. So goal is when one actor or agent is delegating a goal to another actor or agent. He wants this delegation or this goal or this action or objective to be set to satisfy some security requirements, so some security needs, and he graphically mentioned in the model. In the same way, if two actors are exchanging information, he also wants some security requirements or needs on those information to be imposed. So I will not go through each of them, but for example, for the goal, there is one security needs is non-repudiation and non-redelegation. So if one actor is delegating a goal to another actor and impose this security needs, that means the delegator who is delegating, so the person who is delegating to is delegatee. So the delegatee cannot redelegate to another actor, so he has to do it by himself. And then non-repudiation. So if I delegate a goal to someone else, that person cannot deny or challenge my delegation. So there can be, for example, there is also availability. So if I delegate a goal to someone else, that person must be available to some percentage or to some extent. Also, there is trustworthy, and for redundancy, there are different types of redundancy. So if I want to delegate a goal to someone else, he might have multiple strategy or redundant strategy to fulfill that goal. And then also there is a transmission security need. So this can be related to the document. So the document should be integrated. It should have the integrity. It should have confidentiality requirement. It should have availability requirements. So you can impose any of the security needs in your scenario or in your modeling. So there are more than about 25 security needs in the tool. So I will not go through all of them, but those security needs are at the different perspective or different view, are applicable at the different view. And some of them, as I mentioned, are related to goals. So related to goals or delegated goals, there is 11 security needs. Based on these security needs, basically the tool automatically generate the security requirements. So there is a difference between security needs and security requirements. So security needs are high-level expression that is easy to understand for both the end users and the requirements engineers. But security requirements are very specifically written for the developers or testers. And then there is 4 security needs related to documents. So confidentiality, authentication, integrity, and availability. There are 6 security needs related to the information. So the information should not be read by others. For example, non-reading. Information should not be modified by others. For example, non-modification. So there are different types of security needs. And also there are 4 types of authorization relationship security needs. So when I am authorizing someone or delegating a goal to someone, am I authorized to do that? Or is the person I am authorizing to is allowed to do that or perform that action or goal? So this is the very high-level view of STS, how STS works. So usually the security requirements engineer or even the end users express their security needs, and these security needs are imposed on a social view, information view, or authorization view. So the modeler models those view and impose those security needs. The tool automatically derive the security requirements from those security needs that are imposed or expressed on different views. And once we have the security requirements, the tool again can generate a detailed security requirements document, and it's done automatically. You don't need to do anything basically. All you need to do is to express the security needs over different views or different models of the problem context. So this is the detailed view of the STS modeling approach. So in the first, it has multiple phases. In the first phase, you identify the stakeholders. So those stakeholders are agents or roles, and then you also identify the assets. So assets are information or documents, and the interactions, so how or why those agents or roles interact. And once you have the interactions and the information or document, you express the security needs over them. And also you can model the threats. So threats are event. So what can threat your security, or what can threat or what can stop you to achieve some goals. So once you have the social view, you go for the information view, where you identify more information from the scenario or from the context, and who is the owner of this information. And then you impose the security needs related to this information. And again, you go for the first phase, where you have the authorization view. So if I am delegating some goals to someone, I will impose security needs on those delegated goals. So if that person is authorized to do that, or if he has the authorized information or secured information to do that. And once we have the security model, we have the information view, social view, information view, and authorization view, and we have the security needs for each of them. we go for the automated analysis. So in the automated analysis part, this is also done automatically in the tool. You don't need to do anything. So what it does, it goes for the checking first. So if the model that we build are well formed or not. It also do some security analysis. So this is the main part. So with the security analysis part, they generate detailed security requirements specification. And also it has the risk analysis part. So whatever threats we used in our social view or information view, this will be propagated or analyzed in this phase. And finally, we derive the security requirements specification that will be automatically generated as PDF. That will include, or that may include, different views as you prefer, and all the description and details of the stakeholders, security needs, threats, and everything. So before going to the tool or the hands-on session, I will give you a brief introduction to different concepts and notations in the tool. So the first one is the agent and role. So the agent is represented by a circle and the line, where the role is represented two circles. So one is bigger circle and another one is a smaller circle inside that one. So role is basically a position or a role that any person or any guy can hold on a certain time. But the agent can be any person. So it can be a human, or it can be any third party. So it can be a travel agency or a bank, for example. So usually agent or person. So a person always play a role of a position. So the secretary, for example. So Anna is playing the role of secretary here. So this is how we express here the relationship between agent and role. And then there is also the goal. So every role might have, or agent might have, multiple goals or the objectives that want to achieve. So in this case, for example, the goal of the booking agency is to book a flight or book a hotel. So usually goals are expressed in this green rectangle. And then there is another concept. So if we have a role, let's say, whenever we draw a role, it will have a boundary. So this is called its scope. So whatever goal you put it here, that means this goal will be related to this role, or this goal corresponds to this role, or in other words, this role wants to achieve this goal. So it has to be within the scope or within the boundary of this role. Then there is a very important concept of goal decomposition. So basically we can decompose a goal in two different ways. So using AND decomposition or using OR decomposition. So if we want to, or if we do the AND decomposition of goals, that means to achieve goal 1, we need to achieve both the goal 2 and 3. And for the OR decomposition, so if we want to achieve the goal 1, we can achieve it either by achieving sub-goal 2 or by achieving sub-goal 3. And this is also very highly used notation in this tool. Then there is also document and information. So I mentioned before we have this information view. So information view represents everything about document and information. So a document can be anything, a file or a paper or letter or anything, but the information can be a small part of it, like salary or age or address or any kind of personal information. So information is basically part of the document. And I also mentioned a little bit earlier, so scope and position. So if a role has a boundary, so it will always have by default a boundary, and within the boundary, whatever goal or whatever document we will place, it will belong to that role. So that role will be the owner of this document, let's say. And the ownership is represented using this notation. So this agent, for example, owns this information 1. And then there is transmission. So there can be transmission of the information, there can be transmission of the document, there can be transmission even of the goal, but in case of goal we call it goal delegation. So for example, this is the document transmission, and it is represented in this way. So role 1 is transmitting document to agent. And then the document authentication. So when one role is transmitting to document to another role, this document should be authenticated, or the person who is sending should be authenticated. This is also a security needs. So then tangible information. Usually information can be tangible by a document. For example, we want to know about a person who wants to get admission in the university, and his personal data or his credibility or his skills can be tangible by a document, let's say by his CV or by his recommendation letter or reference letter. Then also the part of relationships. So as I mentioned before, information is part of document. So basically a sub-document can be part of document, or a sub-info can be part of the information. So the date of birth might have three different fields like month, day and year. So this year can be a part of his date of birth. Then there is also goal to document relationships. So for achieving one goal, you might need to read a document. So this is done in this way. Then there is also another relationships for producing. So after performing something, it might produce a document. And also after performing something, or in order to perform something, we might need to modify one document. And there is also the delete operation, like after or in order to perform this goal, we need to delete a document, let's say. So goal delegation is already also mentioned before. So role can delegate goals to an agent or to another role. So whoever is delegating is called delegator, and to whom we are delegating is delegatee. But there are many other ways of delegating goals. So this is the general view. So one of the way, so these are also security needs. So one of the way of delegating goals is non-delegation. So if role 1 delegates a goal to agent 1 or another role, this guy on the right, that is agent 01, cannot redelegate or cannot delegate this goal to another one. So he must do it by himself. Then non-repudiation. So if role 2 is delegating a goal, that is goal 02, to another agent or another role, he cannot deny. So he must accept this goal. So this is called non-repudiation. Then redundancy. So as you can see, after every goal, the notation is placed. So by this notation, we will understand what types of security need is it, or what types of goal delegation is it. So for redundancy, if role 3 is delegating a goal to agent 3 or another role, if we put a redundancy security need, that means this agent 3 can perform or achieve this goal in multiple ways. So he can choose whatever ways he wants to, or whatever strategies he wants to follow to fulfill this goal, but he must have to do it himself. Trustworthiness. So when role 4 is delegating a goal to another role or another agent, there should be a trustworthiness of the role 04. So he should be he should be a person whom I can trust, basically. So anybody from outside cannot assign me a goal to do something but my boss or my colleague can assign or delegate me to do something. So availability, when a role will assign or delegate a goal to another role, the delegatee must be available to some percentage. So this availability is usually represented by percentage, and this is also important sometimes, maybe sometimes security needs or security requirements in terms of document and information. Authentication. So whatever information or whatever goal I'm or role 1 is delegating to our role 2, so it should be authenticated. So this is a slight difference between trustworthiness and authentication. The trustworthiness is about the delegator, but authentication is about the goal or the information or document that we are transmitting or delegating. So there are two other concepts. So separation of duty and a combination of duty. Separation of duty is SOD. So separation of duty can be also between roles and between goals. So when it's between roles, that means two role or 2 persons basically cannot play the same, or 2 agent cannot play the same role, or 2 role cannot be the same. So for example, program coordinator is not the same as secretary, and if there is a 2 person, like 2 secretary, like Anna or Mary, they cannot play, let's say, the same role of secretary. So this is between this can be between role, between agent, and even between goals. So when is between goals, that means you cannot or you are not allowed to achieve both of these goals like at the same time. So this is separation of duty between roles or agents and between goals. But there is also the other case or opposite case, that is combination of duties, COD. So when you have combination of roles, that means you can play the role of 2, like you can play the role of program coordinator here or the secretary. So, or even if there is 2 secretary, Mary and Anna, they can play the same. So they are agents, but they can play the same role of secretary. And then for also the goals, there is combination of duties. So when you have combination of duties between goals, that means you can or you should achieve both of these goals at the same time. So there is events. So these events are basically threats, and they can threat a information or document, or they can threat a goal. So those threats are basically whatever exceptions or problems that might arise when we are trying to achieve a goal, or when we are trying to transmit or access a document, for example. Usually threats are always outside the scope, so you cannot put threats within the scope. It should be always outside the scope, and one threat can apply to multiple goals or multiple documents. So authorization, as I mentioned before, we have social view, we have information view, and then we also have authorization view. So authorization views are showed like that, or the concept or the notations is like that. So when we are delegating a goal, let's say role is delegating a goal to an agent, it might also include some information. And when we are delegating a goal, we have to check if that guy is authorized to perform this goal, and also if that guy is authorized to access this information. So that's why we have read, modified, produce, or transmit notation. So if we tick it, that means this guy is authorized to read this information, and or this guy is authorized to transmit this information. But sometimes we can also cross it. So that means it will explicitly say that this guy can read the information but cannot modify. So I don't have that example here, but you can also have cross instead of tick. So if everyone already installed the tool, did you install the tool? Okay. And anyone from the Slack? Let me ask them. So anyone in the Slack install the tool? I think okay, so some people installed. So maybe I can yes, so some people installed it, so let's let me find my tool. Okay. So if somebody did not install, he can also follow what I am doing here. So you remember the scenario? Okay, no, I did not explain the scenario. So there is a scenario. This is also from the documentation of the tool. So a student, an international student, wants a document from the program coordinator, and he wants to submit this official document to the local immigration office to extend his study permit. So producing this document, there will be 4 roles or participant, the student itself, and he wants the letter from the program coordinator, and program coordinator also a secretary that he might ask help. Secretary might need some student data, so there might be a a data manager. So these are the 4 main roles or participant in this scenario. So this one we will so we want to model this goal or this scenario, and want to see what are the possible views of the context and what we can model. So let's start by a project. So let's say this is a student document project, and in the student document project we will go to the models and the STS folder and a new STS diagram. Let's say student doc again, and once we created the diagram, it will give you the modeling platform. So let me just go through briefly in the through the platform. So in the right you have palette. So these are the different concepts or notations that we discussed. So agent, role, goal, document, and event or threat. There can be a relationship for playing a role or delegating a role or transmitting a document or information. There can be decomposition relation between goals like and or. There can be a link for reading or producing or modifying documents or information. There can be also combine, incompatible, and threaten. So usually this threaten link is used with the event, and sometimes so this combined and incompatible are basically separation of combination of duty and role, and separation of duty and role. On the bottom you have social view. So it will basically, as I mentioned, it has three views: social view, information view, and authorization view. So someone's want a break. Yeah, we can go for a short break, and maybe in this time, if someone did not install the tool, he can install the tool. So let's say a 5 minutes break. So welcome back. So on the right side we have these notations that is very specific to STS, and as I mentioned, we have three different views: social view, and when you go to social view, you only see the notations that are related to the social view on the right. Then we have information view. So the notation has been changed, as you see. And when you go to authorization view, so we have even less number of notations. So I think now they can see the screen. Yeah, so we have social view, information view, and authorization view. And for these three view, we have three different notation palette. And in the bottom, we have also three other tabs. So one is the property. So this property we can basically modify and edit during our design. Then the analysis tool. So whatever analysis results we will perform, we will see the results here. And finally, all the security requirements will be listed here, but those will not be listed as a specification. They will be simply whatever security needs you will specify in your model, they will be listed here. And then there is another three other things that I want to show. So one is whatever security requirements here, you will see you can export them as a XML. So right now I don't have any security requirements, so it's telling this. So by exporting them into the XML, you can automatically analyze them or further process them. And also there are three other buttons. So one is the completeness check or well-formedness check. So if you have a model, you can check if your model is valid. Then you have the security analysis button, through which you basically simulate the model, or I would say instantiate the model that will perform on all kinds of security analysis. And then you have also the threat analysis. So whatever threat you put in your model, it will be propagated and will check what are the documents or information are affected or goals are affected by this threat. So you can export your model from here, but we will do it after. So you can export in any format by putting their name, title, and location. Then you can also export your models as an image. So you can either export it as a PDF or as a vector image or JPEG or PNG. But if you export your whole document or whole report, it will automatically by default include all the images and views that you define here. So let's go to the modeling part. So we created this new STS diagram file. So the first thing is that we will have a student role. So we simply drag. It might be very big. So we drag it here, the student role, and we can call it student. And for each student, for each role, we can simply provide a description. Let's say studies student of second year. Let's say LNU. So his mission is to finish or get a degree, finish his undergrad, and he might also have some purpose to learn software engineering, let's say. So we created the role of student, and this student has a goal. So we go to social view. So you take the goal and put it in the scope of the student. So as you can see, the scope is extended automatically. So you go to the goal. So the goal of the student is write a letter or doc for immigration office, and you can put description, but for now I am not giving any description. So this is the student, his scope and his goal, and then he wants this letter from program coordinator, right? So we will have another role called program coordinator. So now this is the fun part of it. So he wants this document from, or this, he wants this goal, he wants to achieve, the student wants to achieve this goal via program coordinator. So what he will do, he will delegate. So we take the delegation link. So from this goal, and this goal will be delegated to the program coordinator. So we drag it on top of program coordinator. So once we drag it on the program coordinator, you will see we created two more boxes. So one box, it says that this goal is delegated to program coordinator. So once it's delegated to program coordinator now has his own goal. So it has two different color. So this dark green means it was delegated goal by someone, and this light green means the original goal of the student. So the student owns this goal basically. So in order to fulfill this goal, okay, so while this goal will be fulfilled, what we will have? We will have a document, right? That document is basically signed official doc, and the program coordinator will sign it. So this goal will do what? This goal will produce this document. So we chose the produce and then link this this goal and the document. But this is the output of the goal. But in order to achieve this goal, the program coordinator also need to achieve three other sub goals. So what are those sub goals? So one of the sub goal is he needs to get the student record, right? Then he also needs to write the document itself, and he also needs to sign the document. So we said that in order to achieve this right document from immigration office, this program coordinator has three other goals and that he need to achieve. So for this one, here comes the goal decomposition. So we will add and between these two, then we again add and between these two, and again in the same way and between these two. So in order to write a document for immigration office, he needs to the program coordinator needs to get the student record and write the document itself and sign the document. Now to write the document, I think I can even make it smaller. So to write the document, he can do it in two ways also. Like one is he might already have a document from another student, so he might update an old document, or he might write a new one. But in this case, we don't need both of these goals to be achieved. So we need one of them. So we can add R decomposition. So he can write the document using either updating an old document or writing a new document. So we can move a bit so that we can save time, space. Okay, it doesn't go. So the program coordinator wants to write and sign the letter, but he cannot do it by himself. He is so busy with other stuff. So he can do what he can. He have a secretary. So we have now a new role, secretary. So what he can do, the program coordinator also doesn't have student record, so he can delegate this goal to secretary. So he can ask secretary get the student record, and so this goal of get student record will be delegated to the secretary. So now we have a delegated goal between program coordinator and secretary, and secretary has now a delegated goal. That's why it's darker green from program coordinator. And to get the student record, program coordinator need basically two information, or she needs to achieve two other goals. One is, so student record, by student record we mean student personal data. So the program coordinator needs to get student personal data, and he also needs to get students' financial data, because the immigration office wants to see if the students is financially solvent or not. Can you I got a question, can you give an example of a real life context that requires one to produce these diagrams? So maybe she missed the scenario or use case. The answer can be, for example, if we want to develop a system like say academic system, and it has student database, and it facilitates all kinds of reports, it facilitates students with their profile. So each student has this own account, so it's kind of academic system itself. And he wants to know, she wants to know an example of real life context that requires one to produce these diagrams. So this can be a context where we want to design a academic system or academic information system, and now we are using or defining the use case of that system, and we will define the security issues with those systems. So the secretary, in order to get the student record, so the secretary must need to get the personal data and the financial data, but when she will get the personal data, it will basically produce a document, right? So personal data file, let's say, and so it will read this file, but she doesn't have this file. So the secretary doesn't have this file. So who has this file? So another actor or another role, that is data manager, he has this information. So in order to get this information, the secretary will delegate this goal to data manager, and then data manager have this goal called get student personal data, and after achieving this goal, or after this goal is made, there will be basically this personal data, that personal data file, that will be okay. There is another so there is I have to create it after. So personal data file, that will be produced between for this goal, after achieving this goal. Then for the financial data, in order to get the financial data, the secretary need to get the university statement, or university let's say financial statement, and the secretary also needs to check if the financial ability of the students is adequate or not. So if check income adequacy, let's say. So she needs to fulfill this both this goal, but again this goal of university statement or university financial data of the student is not available to the students, so it will be delegated to this data manager, and the data manager no, this one, and the data manager will produce a income statement, let's say income document, and this secretary will read this personal data file to get the student personal data, right? So it will read, this goal will read no, it cannot. Okay, basically how the secretary will read it, the document manager will transmit this data basically to secretary. So once it is transmitted, now she will read this data in order to get this goal done. So this is one use case scenario of the academic system, that is the students wants a letter from the program coordinator. And also for the income, checking adequacy and university statement, the secretary needs to read this income document, so the data manager also needs to transmit this document to secretary. So now we have this income document, and secretary can read this document as well. So she can read this as well. And I think this is more or less what we want to draw. But we can also, if we know the agent, we can also add the agent. For let's say Mr. XYZ, he is playing the role of this program coordinator. In the similar way, let's say Mary is playing the role of this secretary. So in the same way, we can add other agents. So the drawing is done. Now the information. So if we go to the information view, so this was kind of social view more or less. So how they are interacting and how they are transmitting the data between themselves. So now if we go to the information view, we can add further information, or we can extend the model further. In the information view, we can say that there can be student personal record or profile, and who owns this? Basically, students owns this. And in the similar way, this income document, this can be it can be personal profile, let's say academic profile, student academic profile. Student owns this, and this academic profile it can be part of it can be part of this personal data. So there can be basically information. What is information we can have? So secretary might have information that is a list of all students, let's say, and she owns this information, and student academic profile of this student can be part of this information as well, and it's student personal data. It can be I wanted to add something tangible. Let's say there is information on income adequacy. income adequacy. So this income adequacy is also owned by the student, but it can be tangible by it should be tangible by this income document, but I think you cannot create it here. Basically, the difference between social view and information view is in the information view you can only add new information but not document. So in order to add the document, you have to basically create in this social view. So let's say student profile. So now if we go to the income tangible income adequacy can be tangible by student profile. So this is example of information view where you can add as many information as you want, and then you have the authorization view. So in the authorization view, it's about authorization between roles or agents. So you have data manager, you have student, you have secretary. So now if we know that students is authorizing the writing the document to the program coordinator, right? So we go this link called authorization, and the authorization between student and the program coordinator. So we link them, and then we have this this notations that I showed during the lecture. Here it has two parts. One is the information and one is for the goal. So here we want to see, or we want to add what information will be added for this goal delegation and for this authorization. So we can say that let's say the student academic profile so the program coordinator is authorized to see the student academic profile or use the student academic profile, and which goal, you just double click here, and the coordinator is authorized to write doc for immigration office. So we select this one. So now we say that the program coordinator is authorized to write for this goal and for this information the program coordinator is authorized, but thus for this information he can, or the program coordinator can read it, or he can produce it. Not produce it, he can, let's say, transmit it. But if we want something him for not to do, we just double click twice. So, and he cannot produce also the profile because the profile is already there. So in this way we add authorization for the goal delegation, but we haven't yet add our security needs, right? So this authorization might have security needs. So let's go back to the social view, and here we can also add security needs between delegated goals. For example, for this write document, this goal was delegated to program coordinator. So we want to mention the security needs. So you simply right click on it, and as you can see, there are all these kind of security needs that I briefly went through. For example, non-delegation. If we give non-delegation, that means program coordinator cannot delegate this goal to anyone, but he is delegating to secretary. So we cannot. If we choose this one, we will get errors. but let's say non-repudiation, so he cannot deny to give me a letter, and for this one let's say acceptance. So now program coordinator must accept this student's request, and there is a lock button now, but we don't see any security needs here. So if we simply double click here, it says here no rep, that means non-repudiation. In the same way, we can add security needs for other interactions. Let's say the data manager is transforming the personal data file to the secretary, so we go to this document. So this security needs was about, the first one was about the goal delegation. Now if we want to transmit this file, personal data file, and we want to impose a security needs on this data, on this document, we simply right click it, and we say that this document should be of integrity. So this document should be correct and authenticated. So for the correctness, we should say that it should be a sender integrity. So when the sender is sending, it should be in the good form. But if we choose the other one, the receiver's integrity, we can also say that when it will be received at the receiver end, it should be receiver end, receiver integrity. Similarly, we can say that this document can be confident, should be confident, so it will be receiver confidentiality, so the receiver should not expose this document to others. And we can also mention the availability of this document. So if we now double click this, you can see we have integrity, security needs, and we have confidential security needs on this document. So similarly, this was for the document and goal delegation. For the information, we cannot provide any security needs. It's all about the goal level, document level, and authorization level. So now we go to the authorization level, and for this authorization that we made, we can have a security needs of no transferability. So this goal that I delegated, it cannot be transferred to another role or another agent. So that's why there is this change in the line, so dotted line. And for example, we can have another authorization between secretary and data manager, and the information that we had is student academic profile, or let's say this one. So this information she is passing, or she wants to give the data manager, but as a goal she wants to get also the student's university personal university statements. So this goal, the data manager is authorized to use this information, and this goal will be achieved via this authorization. So the student academic profile, the data manager can produce or even modify, or let's say he cannot modify, and he can read and transmit. And for this authorization, again we can say that the data manager cannot transfer this authorization to another one or to another role. So now we have, okay, I saved it. So now we have social view. So social view gives you the interaction between the agents or roles. So this is basically a use case for if a student wants a letter for the program coordinator, how it will interact with the system and the other actors. Then we have the information view. So what information we have and who owns this information, and which information is part of what information or document. Let's say income document is a part of personal data file of the student. And then we also have an authorization view where we can see which information and which goal is authorized between two roles, and what are the authorization of those information. So you can read, modify, produce, or transfer those information. So this is an example, and once we have all the three views, now it's time to add threads, for example. So we can have different thread or event. So one event can be, let's say, the program coordinator is not available, or maybe is sick. So this can be one risk, and we have to use this threaten link. So this risk can be posed. So if this risk happen, basically he cannot sign the document, so there will be no signed document. Then let's say that data that produced is outdated or incorrect. Outdated data that is produced by the data manager. So this outdated data will threat the integrity, right? So and this personal data is transferred to here, so it will basically threat the integrity of the personal data file. And of course you can edit the details of this thread. So program coordinator is sick, so this is the name of the event or thread. This is the description. You can put anything you like. Let's say I just put the same thing here. Program coordinator is sick. Then you can also mention what are the countermeasures you want to take. Like if program coordinator is sick, can the document be signed by someone else? So we can say that let's say register or the program chair, department chair can sign the doc. So this can be one countermeasure for this risk, but there can be many other. And the requirements engineers, when we'll get this report, they can see also how this risk or threat can be mitigated from these comments or from these countermeasures. So now we save it. So we have this social view, information view, authorization view with events and threads. And now we want to check, the first thing is to check if the model is complete. So we go to the C button, and we see that so someone is asking, should not be the department chair in the model? Yes, because now I don't have this actor or role in this use case, but if I want as my countermeasure for this threat to be that the department chair will sign the document. Now we also have to add as a solution to this countermeasure, we need to add this role of department chair. So someone was also asking about the assignment 1 scenario. Is it decided by myself? No, I will give you some examples of scenario for the assignment 1. That will be the second part of the assignment, and I will also give you some examples of systems for for the first part of the assignment. So the scenario will be basically a part of that, of those systems. And okay, so I checked that model, that it's complete. That means it's correct. It was well formed. And now the second part is, so as I mentioned before, for the threads, for example, you can choose a thread, and if you choose propagate thread, it will show you what are the parts in the model are affected by this thread. So for example, for this thread, it will not be produced, and if I propagate this one, if I get outdated data, for example, from the data manager, it will not only propagate, not only affect this document, but also many other goals by of the secretary. And as you can see, an outdated data will affect mostly all the documents, because it will have a wrong financial information, it will have maybe outdated student information. So the document itself, the final document itself, will be affected by the program coordinator. So the goal of the student will be affected at the end. And then, so there was another question: why would anyone use STS modeling over use cases with main and alternative scenarios? I don't see the pros of STS modeling. For example, how is scaling being done? So by scaling, I did not get the point, but yeah, that I discussed during the break here, that using the use case, you cannot really visualize or identify all the interactions in the systems. It only gives you a high-level view of interactions between components and the user. But here you can concretely visualize all the interactions, all possible interactions, and then you can specify the security needs that you want out of those 25 different requirements, security needs, and it will automatically translate these security needs into a security requirements set. So also for this example, for here, for example, we have this analysis. Okay, so we performed this analysis check. It was well formed. Now if we go to the security requirements, as you can see, it has a number of security requirements that we mentioned. So if we select one of them, it says who is responsible for the security needs or requirements, what is the requirement itself, and what is the who is the requester, and this is the description of the security requirements. So from here, what you can do, let's say you want to export this security these requirements for further analysis by the requirements engineers. You can export these requirements in a XML, and it will basically give you let's say this form of security requirements in XML, and it's easy to analyze and process because it's in XML and machine readable. So we checked the completeness of the model, and now the second phase is that we can check the run the security analysis. So it will automatically consider all the security needs that we explicitly mentioned here, like this integrity, this confidentiality, this what other security needs we mentioned. So here, for this goal, this is another security risk, security need we mentioned. So once we run this, it will analyze all the security needs and produce a concrete specification of the requirements, security requirements. So if something fails, you will see it's red here. Then you have to go back to the model to refine your model and to check if something is wrong or missing. So the security analysis part is done in one shot, in one click. Then we can also do the threat analysis or event analysis. So if we can run, it says yeah, completed. So it has these two threads. Now the final part. So once we have the completeness check, we have the security analysis check, we have the threat analysis check. Now we will generate the report. So to generate the report, give the title, let's say a use case, no, a security requirement analysis for a use case where, or whatever. I can just put it like this. So author, it can be your name or the designer's name. So let's say the university. You can export either in the current project or file system. This is the report name. Let's say report version 1.1. So you can choose the format. So by default, we will choose always the PDF, and we can open after the generation. So in your report, there is some questions. I will come to that point. So in your report, you can choose whatever you want to include, and whatever models you want to include. So it has social view, information view, authorization view. So let's say I want to include everything, and if I finish the report, yeah, so the report was placed here under the documents. And also if I want to open the report, as you can see, you get all the requirements with all the analysis, all your models, all your threats, how they can be mitigated, even your stakeholders or roles, and your goals, all your sub goals, what are the documents you are transmitting, then the information view, authorization view, and how those different authorization are defined, and finally the security requirements. So the security requirements, it's created as a table, and also it has the check on the well-formedness analysis. In the appendix, it has basically all the models or all the diagrams you have. So it basically has the complete report on all the threats, security needs, and data and information and goal delegation that we did. But okay, so this is the tool part. Let me go back to the Slack also. There is some questions. So do you mean that use cases are unnecessary, or that STS modeling generated requirements complement use cases, or what? Yes, it's complement the use cases, but I would say it's even add further details in the use case that you don't see in the use cases. And the good thing is that in the use case, you don't really, or you're not able to integrate security aspect, but here you can add up to 25 security aspects or security needs. And then there was another question is from Albin. This feels a little counterproductive if you look at look at it with an agile mindset. Is there some way to do STS modeling incrementally, or is it generally used more in waterfall-like process? Yeah, you can do it incrementally, because of course you do not define all your requirements, and you don't test all your requirements in the agile process. So these models of security requirements are possible to do incrementally, and whatever new roles or stakeholders or new requirements you have, you can always add it to your model and diagrams. Because one of the good thing of this tool is that basically you can visualize your security needs, and you can represent your security needs visually. So going back to the slides, for the second assignment, or the second part of the first assignment, so I will give you, so for the first assignment I will give you some problem context or some system information that you can that you can use for your requirements elicitation, analysis and validation, and also modeling, where you also model using UML and OCL. Use OCL for checking the UML constraints. But in the second phase, I will also give some corresponding use case scenarios for those systems where you have to model the social view, you have to model the information view, and also the authorization view. And you should mention different security needs by identifying the roles, goals, and different interactions. So it should be more robust, and it should be analyzed in depth from the security perspective. Because in this toy example, I just gives a small simple view of a academic scenario where you have student data, you have different roles, and the student asks for a letter from program coordinator. So the goal is to deliver a final PDF document, basically the report that is generated by the STS tool. Of course, there will be a name and other information, and you will have all those views or models like social information and authorization views in the report. And at the end, there will be security requirements that you performed in the tool. I think that's it for now. And if you have any questions regarding today's lecture, regarding the assignment, you can ask now. I will put the detailed assignment in the website right now after the lecture, and where you will find the information about the systems and what scenarios you need to, or you can go through for this security requirements modeling. And then you have 1 more week to work on it. So someone is asking if the assignment is available. So assignment, whatever I have on the slides is available, but nothing more detailed. So I will add some more detail on the website in the model. So right now those are not available. Any more questions from here in Kalmar or in Växjö, or from online before we close the lecture? I think all is good. So good luck for your assignment. And so someone is asking when is the deadline of the assignment. So it's 15, I think, but it can be also on 16. So it's 15, right? So
it's a 16:00, so I think you mean it's Friday.
So it's so it's basically on 15th at the 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So basically even 11:59 p.m. So yeah, it's on 15th of February midnight. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for your participation, and I think from the next week you will be here following the lecture in Växjö. online. And there is some more question. Will you be available on Slack for further questions during this week? Yes, I will be always available in Slack and also in email. Just send me questions in the email or in Slack. I will be happy to answer them. And good luck for your assignments then. Thank you.
Thank you.